What are some of the most daring sexual encounters you have ever had? That would have been the time with my wife, Amy, and Roisin, our neighbor. Amy was raised in a very conservative household, hence the reason for anonymity. So she had always been taught that the prime reason for sex was children. If you happened to enjoy it a little, you should never let anyone know. We met in college, and by the time we got married, she had loosened up quite a bit. Still, I would never have called our sex life electric or spectacular. But it was good. Roisin moved next door a few days after our 4th anniversary. Amy is beautiful. I love her with all my everything. Roisin, however, was a next-level beauty. She was maybe 5'4", with pale red hair, translucent skin, and a trim body. She had moved from Ireland only 2 years prior, and her work had made her end up here. Amy and I met her a few weeks after she moved in when she came over to introduce herself and ask for some help moving something. She was one of those personalities that you couldn't help liking immediately. 10 minutes and it felt like you had known her all your life. Amy and her quickly became friends despite the fact that they were opposite each other in so many ways, and soon we were getting together for dinners and just to visit. It had been almost a year since she moved in next door. It was a Friday and Roisin was at our place. The weather had been very warm for about a week. Amy was wearing shorts, mid-thigh of course, and a white t-shirt. I was wearing cargo shorts and a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, and Roisin was wearing very short cut-off jean shorts and a white sleeveless t-shirt. The girls were drinking wine, and as usual, I was having beer. Somehow, the conversation had drifted off to dating and similar issues. Roisin had made no secret that she was interested in both male and female partners. Although Amy was accepting of her, I always got the feeling it made her a little uncomfortable. Me? I could not have given less of a shit. Anyway, we had had a few drinks already, and we were pretty relaxed when Amy asked Roisin, "What's it like to kiss another woman?" Yeah, I was a bit shocked. She never broached the subject, and she never acted as if she had even the slightest interest, so I took it as alcohol and curiosity. "Depends on the woman," Roisin replied. "It can be gentle, it can be passionate. All depends on the woman and the mood." "So it is no different than kissing a man," Amy said. "Sometimes," Roisin said. "Generally, it's just a kiss. The big difference is the other stuff." Amy blushed at that. I had to go inside, pee, and get more beer. As I was leaving, they started talking about babies. We had been trying actively to get pregnant, but so far nothing had happened. I let the girls talk and went inside. On my way back, I grabbed another beer and a new bottle of wine as they had nearly polished off the old one. I got to the sliding glass door and saw that Roisin was sitting next to Amy, holding her. Amy's shoulders were shaking, and I knew it meant she was crying. A few seconds later, I saw her take a deep breath, then look up at Roisin and tell her something. Their voices were too low for me to hear. Amy nodded as if answering a question. The next thing to happen almost caused me to drop the wine and beer. Roisin leaned in and kissed Amy tenderly for about 30 seconds or more. When they parted, Amy had this look of wonderment on her face. I decided now would be as good a time as any to walk out. I acted as if I had seen nothing. They acted as if nothing happened, but I could see the change in my wife's eyes. Something had wakened, I just wasn't sure what it was. We sat and talked a while more. Amy and Roisin continued to sit closer together while I sat where Roisin had been sitting earlier. "You need to relax," Roisin said to Amy. "If you are too tense and trying too hard, you will never have children." She looked at me, then back at my wife. "When was the last time you had a really good orgasm?" She asked Amy, who blushed immediately. I had never known her to have an orgasm, at least not one of those grab the sheets arch your back ones anyway. "You have never orgasmed?" Roisin asked incredulously. "That's where your problem is then. You need a proper orgasm. Let yourself loosen up." "I don't know," Amy said, as she looked at me, then back to Roisin. "It's not a will to enjoy sex," Roisin said in a low voice. "It's natural. It's beautiful. It relaxes you, makes you feel better." She looked at Amy, then at me once again. "I can show you how to orgasm if you would like." Before I could say a word, my wife said yes. I looked at her, and she looked at me. I leaned back in my chair trying to figure out what the hell was going on. "I'm willing to try anything if it helps me get pregnant," Amy said. It's all about finding the sensitive areas," Roisin said. "Say the neck of instance." She began nuzzling Amy's neck, placing light kisses from the back of her ears down to her collarbone, which caused Amy to moan lightly. "Or ears," she said, nibbling on my wife's earlobes, causing more soft moans. She reached under Amy's shirt and with a deft move unlatched their bra. "Nipples are very sensitive," she said, as she pinched and rolled my wife's nipples, causing her to moan. She lifted Amy's shirt high enough to access her breasts and took one of her nipples in her mouth. Amy drew a breath in through her teeth. Roisin kneaded my wife's breasts while she continued to lightly suck on my wife's nipples. One hand started to slide down my wife's belly, then found the button on her shorts. In a matter of a couple of seconds, she unbuttoned my wife's shorts and pulled the zipper down. My wife's breathing was deep and heavy. Roisin slipped her hand inside, and Amy's eyes darted open. Roisin paused. "Would you like me to continue?" A look of uncertainty passed over Amy's face. She looked at me, but I had nothing to say. I was mesmerized. She looked back at Roisin, who had nothing but care in her eyes. Amy nodded and Roisin continued. She began moving her hand in a circular motion. Amy released a breathy moan, and Roisin continued to lick and suck Amy's nipples while her hand moved slowly under Amy's panties. A light sheen of sweat had started to form on Amy's skin. She gasped a little, and I knew Roisin had slipped a finger in her. I watched as her hand alternated from a back-and-forth motion to a circular motion. Amy's eyes were closed, her lips parted just slightly as her breathing began to quicken. Roisin increased the speed of her motions, and Amy's breathing grew quicker. Suddenly, her eyes squeezed tight, her back arched, and she let out one long moan. Roisin continued. Amy's hips bucked a few times and then settled. Roisin kept her fingers going until Amy arched her back again a few minutes later. Then they were done. Roisin leaned back as Amy slumped in her chair. There was a look of deep contentment on her face and one of satisfaction on Roisin's face. Our sex life improved dramatically after that. In fact, after Roisin left that night, Amy and I went inside and made love 3 times, more than we ever had in one night. 2 months later, Amy found out she was pregnant. Auntie Roisin is still a part of our lives, even though we never had another session like that. I will never forget it.